You know, I haven't done one of these in a while, but why not? Something got me greatly annoyed. So, if you are aware, maybe you aren't, Dota 2 has gotten a new Arcana, or will get a new Arcana for Drow Ranger. And I have a bunch of things to say about it. I noted down a paragraph in a Discord. And so let's have a look at the Arcana. Now, I don't think anybody cares what I got to say, but I'm sensing a pattern. Ice Frog wants to make the game more dark and polarized, that the characters are more evil or more good, more power-hungry, or just wants to progress their stories. Hence, the Wraith King, Queen of Pain, and Wind Ranger Arcana descriptions, aesthetics, and personalities. Wraith King went back to bones, and supposedly he's killing a lot more now and is more evil, if that was possible. Queen of Pain has went back to some demonic court and has been reinvigorated with new power and influence. And Wind Ranger's family died in an accident involving a wind elemental just killing them all to quote-unquote wake her up to her true legacy, lineage, or origin, or whatever. And so these descriptions, aesthetics, and personalities for these characters make sense. But this Drow Arcana comes off to me. On the one hand, the Daedalus crossbow is really nice, if it really is Daedalus that Drow is wielding. But on the other hand, while one could consider regular Drow personality on the verge of cringe, there is at least purpose to the way Drow behaves. Oh, let me get my arrows back, then you can die. I thought they warned you, and blah blah blah. And combined with the repression of emotions and living with a different species that has different customs and so, all of this comes together and makes a reasonable archer personality. But Drow is supposedly a supreme archer that happens to be really good at killing, and doesn't bat an eye, regardless of the amount of kills that she makes. Now, one thing about this Arcana is, Drow Ranger put on the Mask of Madness, which is not only a gameplay item, but also a cosmetic item of the immortal rarity that was made for Drow. And so she put on this mask, and supposedly she saw so much brutality and pain, because not only she was able to inflict a lot more of this, pain and whatever, but she got visions of how others used the mask, of how they killed with the mask. But first of all, that's weird, and second, it doesn't make much sense, because she's an archer. The speed and rate at which she can kill, and is very detached from any consequence of whatever she does, makes me really question why supposedly seeing somebody else kill would have any sort of impact on her already emotionally dead personality, dead and detracted from whatever happens. You know, except for the odd laugh whenever she kills a character here and there. As for the visuals, the jawline, while it is there, the face is a lot shorter. Maybe it doesn't seem like it in here. In here it actually looks quite true to the original, but then once the eyes are on, and once you look at the character's much younger now. Feels like it anyway. So the eyes are weird, but that's supposedly, as someone on the Discord and in YouTube comments pointed out, supposedly a callback to Dota 1, where Drow Ranger was undead. She used the Sylvanas model. But then, if you know anything about Dota 1 and the relationship between Valve and, at the time, Blizzard Entertainment, you would know that as a part of their lawsuit out-of-court settlement, Blizzard would get to keep the label Dota All-Stars and the characters, while Ice Frog would have to rework some of the characters to not be as similar in Dota 2. Now, in Dota 1, Drow was undead, and was supposedly a sister to Windranger. In Dota 2, from the very start, Drow was alive, and it's reflected in the character's lore, where she was a small girl and her parents died in a battle, and then she was discovered by these Drow forest trolls, and then she grew up with them. So for Wraith King, going, from a Skeleton King to Wraith King, back to Bones, back to the Skeleton King, that makes sense. But Drow was never undead in Dota 2, and as somebody pointed out, this looks sort of like an Archer Banshee. And as for the hair, it has next to no similarities other than the color with the hair. But I digress. I don't have much against anime, but wasn't the original reworked model, I don't know, good? Why degrade it so just because she supposedly put a mask on? It now looks much more like Phantom Assassin and much less than Drow Ranger. And then there's the added weight of overly edited voice lines. With Wraith King it made sense, because as they added the chat wheel hero lines, all of his are in caps, and while you may not get that impression from playing Wraith King, he's supposedly really loud, and so to have an echo makes sense. With Queen of Pain, the edit got annoying, but I got used to it over time, because she's a succubus and she's different and stronger and more powerful now, more influential and blah blah blah. Windranger and Anti-Mage Arcanas didn't have any voice editing. But Drow does, and she has something along the lines of an echo. But why? Drow is supposedly stealthy and silent, or most of the time silent. So what's the point? To me it feels terrible, and while I think many may end up liking it and already have, especially Russians, and I think you will agree if you review your Russian teammate and opponent profile pictures across matches, I think it brings much more conflict to the user than an Arcana should. From Arcanas that have been made so far, and perhaps I'm wrong, the only time an Arcana really changed a character, before this new design of Arcanas came by, starting with Wraith King, the only time an Arcana really changed a character to really depart from its original features was Lena, which is literally a walking torch. At a certain point, the head just turns into flame. In every other case, it was amplification of a character's visual and design features and gameplay features. With all of the Arcanas, they at least had realism in the weapons and design, and now we're getting into territory where a thin-ass female can carry an overly huge crossbow, wield it in one hand as she blows kisses, and this is an Arcana. In Dota 2, the realistic counterpart to League of Legends. Really now. Combined with Marcy, and the anime influence on the game, where Marcy stands out like no other in how unrealistic the kit design is compared to the entirety of the roster, it doesn't matter if it's Windranger or Underlord, if it's Zeus or Ogre Magi, it doesn't matter. Marcy just kicks somebody over the head, or can just bounce off of anything, no matter how small or big it is. There's no, if it's a creep, you can dash only half the distance. No, if the character has more strength than you, stun doesn't occur. There's none of that. Marcy is very uninteractive, and while many other characters are as well, I find there to be a lack of the realism in the design of the character. And so all of this has me worried for the way the game is headed. And I get that Ice Frog and the development team may be very much, or at least Ice Frog, may be maintaining these characters, these models, these lores and designs. ever since, when, 2003, 2004, 5, whenever Dota 1 was made, or whenever he started working on the game. It's been, what, 15 years? Maybe more. And he may be getting tired of doing the same thing over and over. But if he wanted to differentiate, diversify what he does, wasn't Artifact the perfect choice to do that in? Wasn't Artifact the perfect game to try animifying everyone, going all out with different designs, changing up the visuals? I think it was, and it wasn't used. You know, Dota was always this realistic realistic MOBA compared to LoL. And while LoL went off the rails with its balance because there was no realism to begin with, or next to no realism to begin with, until somebody like Jinx came out, and even then, whatever. Dota managed to stay balanced in its imbalance, if that makes sense. Carries always having power in the very specific ways because of their kit designs. Supports always having the same impact and power because of their kit designs and because of realism. It's like, there's no way that a Lion could suddenly start hexing everybody from level 1. No, it has to be a talent on level 25. And so on and so forth. So Dota managed to stay balanced in its imbalance, and has managed to stay more or less in the same rails, while LoL has gone completely off. I played LoL quite a lot back in 2009, 10, and 11, and I stopped in 11 because they started releasing overpowered garbage and overtuning everyone and everything, and look where the game's today. If you were to make a survey, I would guess more than half of the players of League of Legends are depressed and want to end it all because their teammates are so bad. The game is so one-sided and whatever. You can see that in the fact that they added a surrender at minute 15. Or is it even 10 minutes now? I don't know. Last I heard it was 15. But you get the point. And so, what will become of Dota if this realism is pushed aside in favor of this focus on fantasifying everything? By all means, this Arcana is good. By all means, it's special, because that's the purpose of Arcanas. They're specifically tailored item sets or items by Valve, which somehow most of the time, or much of the time, progress the character, progress the story, are somehow special because of the effects and because of the icons and interactions with other characters that they add. But if this is how the game will continue, who will guarantee that it won't turn into the same, for lack of a better term, shitfest that League of Legends turned into because it disregarded any realism? You know, you can see some realism in the fact that she's like, oh, Gust is not just a, blow of cold wind that really makes one's throat sore and just deprives somebody of oxygen and whatever other reasoning you could make. It's now a gust of really cold wind. And because she can do that, she can blow a really cold wind, she now can just, make the ground frozen and slide on it. But I think that's starting to stretch it, and it really does seem like the Banshee Ranger you could find in Dota 1. I'm concerned. I really am. For whatever will become of the game. But it wouldn't be a first in this world where anything that was good at some point gets turned into a skin suit and put on something that has next to nothing to do with the original. I think this may be a sad day, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it will change. Maybe it won't go the way I'm afraid it will. But I have very little reason to believe that the increasing amount of influence of anime and reckless disregard of realism, well, there seems to be some attention to it at least for now. Who's gonna say that it won't get worse?